we did get the bans just a moment ago. Team Reborn got rid of Akali and Lee Sin, and DR got rid of Gragas and Alistair. I'll leave that to you, Daniel. You're clearly raring to go.
Yeah, none of those bans are particularly surprising. I think the most surprising is Akali, but just because we haven't seen her ban that much. But on the other hand, she's been really, really strong. So, I mean, Gragas is obviously super strong in all situations. Alistair and Braum obviously are super high on the priority list for bans. And then Lee Sin, everyone's just scared of that blind man.
So yesterday, we were doing this with Scoundrel, and he said anyone who doesn't ban Evelyn is trolling. And we did see some evidence of that. Do you agree?
I wouldn't necessarily agree, because not everyone can totally play Evelyn, especially in mid, because she's such a different champion that, sometimes you can kind of bait the opponent into playing Evelyn when they can't necessarily, do it at the highest level, especially compared to, I mean, a lot of mids aren't really super, experienced with playing Evelyn. So, I mean, it all depends, is what I'm trying to say.
There was just a hover of Evelyn. So I'm hoping we'll see it. Dave, as we get into this game, could we just get confirmation of whose perspective we're on?
Yeah, obviously. Again, guys, thanks to the limitation of the technology that we have to watch player perspective. And right now, you're watching DR Esports. And once I think there's a tiny delay on Team Reborn stream. Maybe there's a huge delay on Team Reborn stream. Let's see if we... Maybe they're just like, because their stream equipment is also not the best. But yeah, there's a tiny delay on Team Reborn. But you're going back to DR Esports perspective at this point. Go ahead.
So we do have the DR Esports side over there in blue, and red will be Team Reborn, unless we're on their perspective. So we apologize, we're not going to be able to catch all of the action or anything like that. There'll be awkward moments where a team fight's happening off screen, and we just can't do anything about that because there isn't a spectator mode.
TJ, you're going to get really used to the casting bubbles on the mini map.
I did. Yesterday there were so many fights. We could do a thing where you could fact check me after the team fight, because I'll end the team fight, I'll be like, this team wins! And then you could be like, well, actually, these kills happened over here and you didn't notice them. You could fact check me. But we have completed the draft here. Is there anything standing out to you as we head into game, Daniel?
Well, both teams opting to go for the relatively new champions, Lulu and Kennen. So honestly, I don't really know how they're going to fare in this situation. Scoundrel, one of the casters of this tournament, had a big thing when Lulu came out saying she's S+ tier. So not too surprising to see one of our teams going for that.
Man, you and tier lists. I'm missing Doizer's SSSSS tier.
Let's not talk about that right now.
Scoundrel only has S+. It's not very good at all.
It's, S and above, basically, is what he's trying to go with there.
The Kennen stands out to me, of course, in PC Wild Rift. You can rely on the Kennen to be a viable duelist in lane, but they really come into their own towards the late game, when they will show up with big team fights, slicing Maelstrom ultimates, eating entire team compositions in one go. What we saw yesterday was that a Kennen with a little bit of early help here in Wild Rift can excel even during the laning phase, using that CC from his repeated attacks to generate actually really, really, really devastating dueling in the laning phase.
I'm actually kind of excited to actually see the perspective of an ADC carry here, or sorry, attack damage carry. My bad. But
carry.
Yeah, exactly. But it's always like mid, or basically the the Baron lane or something like that. Now we actually get to see the actual perspective of someone who's pretty much constantly in the action.
Yeah, there is a little bit of a kind of role swap happening here, as Gospel is taking the Misfortune, traditionally a duo laner, into a solo lane.
Yeah, she is in the Dragon lane, though.
Yeah, and I think that is actually because there was a lane swap that came out from their opposition here. I think Team Reborn have forced this, and Gospel and the rest of DR have just responded really well, ending their support down there to the bottom lane. and leaving Gospel here to live their best life, saying, hey, it's a range duel versus Kennen, we win those.
Yeah, and we've seen this first with 16-bit gear. They kind of seems like they've kind of popularized this, and other teams have followed up, or maybe teams have realized it's a really strong play to mix it up on their own by making sure that they have doubling up into the Baron lane as opposed to the Dragon lane. But you see that it's if we're looking at the red side, they're the ones who kind of switched up, and for DR side, for the blue side here, they just kept Misfortune in the lane and just sent the support over to the bottom side.
Yeah, Reborn, I don't think too happy with their gamble, as this Kennen is not having a great time versus Gospel in lane. Misfortune is very capable of just outpoking and outzoning, and Gospel is right now freezing the lane, just denying access to any minion kills to this Kennen, keeping it at a distance, making sure that they're building out a little bit of a golden XP lead.
I'm just curious about how both teams are going to handle the objective spawning, right? Are they just going to go back to base and then immediately just gather up for a fight on the dragon, or are they looking to just really fight on the tower? You can see on the minimap there that the blue side towers are getting really pushed in, and we actually have a big fight on the bottom of the minimap. Kind of hard to cast this, but you can see it right there.
Yeah, we did have the roam from both junglers. Oh, a brief peek as well. Both junglers did show up in that bottom lane. I don't think anyone went down. That may change. Darthus able to slide away there on the Shyvana. It does look like DR Esports were zoned off of the fight, but they're not going to lose anything tangible here. All the jungle in that area had already been cleared out. Darthus is doing just fine, unless there is some turn for the buff, or there is potentially
Look at that. Everyone 4v4.
That could get dangerous. It's a 4v4, as you said. Oni goes in on the Fizz and finds massive damage for the front lines. And I think that's looking really good for DR. It is, again, really hard to follow these fights when we don't have the perspective, but Gospel has roamed quite well to catch the rotators as they're leaving a devastating fight. And even a bullet time cast through. 2 kills, none in answer. A very good fight for DR.
Yeah, I love the punish by DR. Reborn looks like they were trying to get a little cheeky and invade the jungle, but DR on top of it. We had 4 members rotate immediately to catch them, and then on the retreat, Misfortune coming in and punishing them completely.
So a really good start. And you were wondering how they would handle the objective spawning. We'll swap over to the Team Reborn side to see just that, as this cannon rotates up from the Dragon lane into the Dragon pit to start challenging for the first objective of the game. Yes, they've lost the first fight, but they would like to be able to get something out of it regardless.
Yeah, it looks like they love rotating as a team. You can see all 5 members here in the bottom side of this map, and they're trying to make something happen. Really trying to put damage on this Misfortune. Got the stun there as well to, just set up for this dragon. It seems like.
But Team Reborn, despite having zoning around it, don't have any control of the opposite side of the river. They've got no wards, nothing. So, for all they know, the entire Team DR could be waiting to pounce, and they're not willing to take that risk.
Yeah, that's so scary now that you mentioned it. Another thing that we haven't mentioned so far is Shyvana. Everything about her kit revolves around taking dragons. She's able to take them faster, and when she does, she gets stronger. And that's why you see this Team Reborn being so careful, being so cautious around this dragon, making sure that they want to get it. But it seems like Reborn's jumping on it right now.
Yeah, Reborn zoning in as DR. Go for the fight. Slicing Maelstrom is ready to go and will chew into the backline, but the bullet time is perfectly spaced. And Team DR, I believe, are working out another good team fight win. You can see the backline of that Misfortune doing great work, but as they step forward, it gets a little more dangerous. This cannon able to chew off a side. And I think that has ended up as another 2-0 or 2-2.
Oh, no, 2-2, actually. Yeah, it was actually a 2-2.
There's your
in the
fact
end.
check.
There you go. Fact check number 1. But yeah, okay, we're taking a look at the replay.
Sure.
You can see the Kennen just coming in, right? Really good team fight for DR at the start, like you mentioned, but then Kennen just completely unopposed gets all this free damage on the backside. I was laughing at the fact that the shark just chomped up Gianna right at the start. But you can see Kennen coming in with massive damage, getting the stuns off, and Fizz really couldn't do anything about it. DR's team not there to help him.
Very, very well played. It's really hard to catch what happens off screen during this, and I apologize to any viewers as we struggle with that. That was a flash burn. Wasn't
He was
sure
about
that
to
he
die.
needed to, but he had to at the end.
Yeah,
Just a lot of misfortune damage. This was really well played. As kind of a weird solo lane. I think the fact that they tried to lane swap led to DR's misfortune getting weirdly out ahead.
yeah, and it's just so hard to. I mean, I can see why this kid in here was so afraid of dying, and you don't want to get any free kills. It feels so bad to think that you could have gotten away with a flash, and then you ended up dying. You know, I can totally see where he's coming from. Meanwhile, though, the Rift Herald was actually taken by Team Reborn, this blue side that we're looking at right now. So looks like a slight comeback is in the works.
Yep. Team Reborn able to trade that last fight even again. Did you catch who took the Drake in all of that?
No, it was oh, I actually didn't. Okay, it looks like it was actually Team Reborn. So Team Reborn has the Drake and the Rift Herald.
Oh
So
yeah,
this
I
is
see
looking
that
really
now
good
at
for
the
them.
bottom. So yeah, actually really good for Team Reborn as they're able to get the Infernal Drake from that scrum.
You know, I gotta say, I really
Very-
appreciate this kid looking at the menu so we can see who took the dragon. It's almost like he heard us. It's like, who took the dragon? Let me get that for you, TJ and D2.
Thank you, Kevin. Fight around the Drake pit is developing again, but there's a Hex Tank ultimatum in the meantime as this cannon is just assassinated. 1 HP, but they will not get to safety.
Yeah, it turns out Camille can just jump over walls, so that's not going to go too well for them.
And DR1, they got a couple of kills all the way down by that Dragon Pit fight that was off-screen as well. They don't get this mid-lane turret, but that is a lot of gold into their pocket from that exchange.
Exactly. That's a 3-4-0 for their side. And it just makes it so much more difficult when your Draven's losing and losing his life, because then he can't get the extra gold as well. It always seems to snowball one direction or the other when there's a Draven involved.
There's the turret going down. Draven. Okay, I'm gonna hold this. I'm gonna hold this bit of BM on Draven mains. Because there was an attempt to shut down the Camille roaming up back towards that Baron lane. Draven is the champion that like psychopaths play. And I'm gonna do I get to explain it? Yeah, okay. Because it makes the game entirely revolve around you. And I swear that's why they do it. If you're playing a Draven, you're doing it because you want to be the only important thing on the map. And that's less true in competitive play. But as far as solo queue goes, if you're a Draven main, I don't want to be alone in a room with you.
I don't know. Just Draven's so weird to me. It always just feels like he's always chasing his axes, and it feels like they always land in the right places for my opponent. But whenever I play Draven, they're like, it goes in the exact opposite direction I want to go. I'm like, why is this spawn there?
Back to the DR side. We're going to swap briefly. They have been winning out so far. And
Yeah, I
are
mean,
setting
it's
up for the next set of objectives.
yeah. I just want to comment on that for a second. They're up 7-2 in kills, but they lost both major objectives so far. So it seems like one team is just better at team fighting. The other team is just better at taking objectives. It seems like at least thus far.
Yeah,
No, they
DR
say
have
that
been
Fizz
losing
goes
out
down,
on
though.
those objectives despite the team fighting. But Reborn will grab themselves a turret in the mid lane and a kill. That may change. Hextank ultimatum in for the fight for the Camille, but the Camille doesn't find anything, chased away by that Janna. And as a result, it is a positive exchange, a turret and a kill with no answer over to Team Reborn.
And no vision onto the dragon here, so it could be that Reborn is taking that right now. I want to also mention that with both middle turrets down, there could be a lot of aggression going forward. As you can see, Camille getting really aggressed on the top lane. Well, bottom lane,
that Drake
but the
did
top
go
lane,
over.
but you know.
The Dragon lane. That Drake did go over, for the record. So because there is so much pressure up there towards the Dragon lane, DR actually make a really cool call. They say, okay, well, if everyone's up top, what's to stop us from taking this turret down bottom? And the answer is nothing. The Rift Herald has been summoned in the mid lane during this time, which will eventually drag them away. But they get a decent amount of turret damage before they have to go attend to that.
Yeah, it just seems like both teams are trying to pull each other in different directions, right? As you mentioned, DR went to bottom lane, and then Reborn's like, okay, well, if you're going bottom lane, then we're going to release the Rift Herald the mid lane, and then that kind of forces the mid lane, and then all of a sudden now we have potentially a team fight on our hands.
Yep, here comes Geraldo Rift Era.
My goodness.
The Rift Herald will collide with the lane.
I've never heard that one before.
My other one is Sheldon from the Big Bang Theory, and I figured that one will be a big hit with you, so I was saving it.
I don't get it though.
I feel like I have a distinct memory that you had a big thing for the Big Bang Theory, but that was
But-
like a year ago. We were trapped in a London
Right.
apartment casting Arena of Valor.
But I don't get
Rough
the reference though. I don't.
Because he's got a shell. It's shell done.
Oh my
'Cause he's-
god! You're kidding me. What is going on? Okay. I can't even. It's hard to tell who's actually ahead in this. I want to just count up the gold, but it seems like his misfortune's pretty buff. Fizz hasn't had a really good time, despite the kill advantage. There's a massive, dragon advantage on the other side. So, kind of hard to see how the team fights are going to go going forward.
Yep, it all comes down to the cannon ult, the slicing maelstrom, and the misfortune ult, the bullet time. If the bullet time is the massive team fight decider, then obviously DR are doing pretty well. But if Gospel is shut down by dive before that happens, or the slicing maelstrom has already chewed up the front line, then it will be a great time for their opponents, Team Reborn.
Yeah, and one thing to mention as well is that with Shyvana not getting her buffs from the dragons, she is basically missing a passive, right? Doesn't have the extra buffs that come with that. So that's very tough for her as well to be winning these team fights when she's not getting just extra stats, extra buffs on her abilities, and everything.
Baron is up, and that's worth noting because there's no vision on it here for DR. They're being zoned off very successfully.
Seemed like. Sorry to cut you off. It seemed like they had pretty good map control earlier on in the game, and now it seems like it's flipped over to Team Reborn.
Yeah, Team Reborn have definitely come into their late game threat as we will switch over to their perspective. We get confirmation that they are trying something sneaky over by the Baron. 3 players up there. This cannon, of course, still in the solo lane versus the Camille, as we're watching from their opponent's perspective.
Yeah, the Camille doing a really good job of pushing this lane in to make sure that someone has to respond to it, and that makes it so that you can't really easily go onto the Baron because you could potentially be a member down potentially if Camille rotates over, uses teleport, whatnot. So
yeah, and this is a time for the teleport boots. This is a time for you to be able to join your fight in an instant if you have to. I paused there because I was realizing the Drake is just about to come up. It is 10 seconds away. You see the Squire's Bloom spent there just to try and get vision, make sure there's no wards on it. And Team Reborn are just going to pick it up because look at where DR are. Team DR all the way back by their first and second turrets.
Yeah, not even close to being able to contest this. And
TP
maybe.
Here comes the team. DR off of the TPs. It's a staggered engage, and the slicing maelstrom just chews up their backline exactly as we forecast. Team DR, so far, so good in this fight as Reborn hold on to the front lines with that devastating slicing maelstrom. Now they'll have to flash away, disengage with their lives, and they are able to do so. 1 for 1 in the kill feed so far. GA will probably pop that Wukong for a second kill there, but they get the Drake and they get away.
Yeah, kind of. Some of them get away. That was a 2 for 0 for DR, like you mentioned.
3 of them get away.
Yeah, just looking at this fight again, it seemed like it was going okay for Reborn at the start. Really nice tornado coming up from Janet here. Lots of damage coming up from the ultimate out of Kennen. And then we had the tornado, whatever that's called, the speedy thing from Wukong going in as well. But then you saw that DR just completely turning on them. Obviously, as they were going in, the massive damage coming out from Misfortune, like you mentioned. So it was just a really tough situation by the end of that team fight, even though they were able to secure the dragon.
Team Reborn started that fight real well. I was just watching that Shyvana get instantly melted. I was like, there's absolutely no way Reborn lose this. And then they don't finish the backline threat kills. And the Shyvana is able to turn around and just shove everyone who is in the pit thinking they were having a good time in between a bullet time and an angry dragon lady.
It seems like just to expand on that, it seemed like it might have been a better idea for Reborn just to turn on Shyvana and delete her, rather than half of the members trying to go for the backline and getting shredded.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
And what I was going to go further into on that was this cannon engage that we saw. I'm going to pick on him a bit because it's the only player's perspective that we have. He goes into the backlines with Slicing Maelstrom, and it's very traditional if you're in cannon ult to use Zhonya's Hourglass to stay alive during the ultimate. But he mistimes it. So he goes in, he gets his entire ultimate off, nobody's threatening him, and then he pops the hourglass and just does nothing during a critical several seconds of the fight.
Yeah, it seems like that everything kind of fell short in that moment, and he wasn't really able to get the impact that he had, especially in some of the early team fights that we saw.
That fight has huge consequences because it immediately turned into DR getting the Baron, which they're now bearing down on the base with.
Yeah, exactly. I assume that our viewers can understand what's happened here, but like the Baron was taken, and this entire time Reborn has been just pushed in because of that.
Ooh, slicing Maelstrom to try and turn this. That was underneath the turret, but just nothing can be done. Our cannon is deleted. That is a humongous dragon. The wild growth from the Lulu amping up a dragon form Shyvana. I never want to see that again. And this should be the game for Team DR as they scoop up the Nexus and put themselves 1-0 up in the series.
Oof. What a weird game, huh? Like, he started, every single objective went to Reborn, but it seemed like every single kill went to DR. I don't even know how to explain that. But yeah, let's take a look at this fight again.
Hey, Dave, what's up?
All right.
Our producer AssassinDave had some technical issues there.
But yeah, just
get our end screen. And you were expounding upon kind of DR's good team fighting when we had that issue.
Well, I mean, you could just see it right here. Why did it have good team fights? Maybe because Miss Fortune had like double the damage of anyone in the game. Seems like no one got to her. That just seems like to be the. Sometimes you can just look at the stats and know how the game was won, and I think this is one of those cases.